Tell me, have you ever felt that your desire, that impulse that drags you along without asking for permission, doesn't really belong to you? As if someone had installed inside you a secret program that dictates what attracts you, what obsesses you, what consumes you in the darkness of your mind. You think you choose, but what if you don't? What if your sexual desire isn't yours, but an inheritance buried deep in your childhood? What if what you seek in intimacy is actually a hidden reflection of the first woman who held you in her arms? Yes, your mother. And no, it isn't a misinterpretation. It is the most uncomfortable shadow Carl Jung dared to illuminate. The unconscious doesn't forget, even if you try. What you most reject is precisely what directs you in silence. Imagine this: a newborn creature, vulnerable, connected to the breast that feeds it, to the warmth that saves it from the cold, to the gaze that names it in the world. That absolute dependence is burned like fire into the flesh, like an invisible tattoo on the soul. And when years pass, when you learn to speak, to walk, to play, you naively believe you have freed yourself from that bond. But no, the link still breathes within you, disguised, hidden in the shadows of your unconscious. And here is the disturbing part. Your way of loving, of choosing a partner, of desiring, is stained by that first contact, by that first female figure who molded your psyche like wet clay in the hands of a potter. Jung knew this. He intuited it in every patient who sat before him, trembling between confessions of what they longed for and what they hated. And he discovered an uncomfortable truth. To understand your sexual desire, you first have to dare to look at the image of your mother that you carry, engraved within you. That image is not literal, not physical, but symbolic. It is the archetype that awakens attraction and rejection in you at the same time. It is the secret mold that decides, without your awareness, why someone ignites you or why another person, though perfect in appearance, cannot awaken anything in you. And here comes the most chilling part. That mold can be distorted. If your relationship with your mother was distant, cold, or excessively possessive, your unconscious will translate it into the language of desire. Without realizing it, you will search for the caress you never received, or for escape from the embrace that suffocated you. And when you believe you are choosing out of pleasure, you are in fact obeying a wound. Do you see how dark this is? The desire that governs you, that you believed was free, may actually be the oldest chain you drag from your cradle. Now tell me, do you still think you know what you want? Or are you beginning to suspect that everything you pursue between the sheets is an echo of the first woman who taught you what it means to exist? And here is where the most unsettling part comes in. Desire does not arise like an isolated bolt of lightning, but is woven into a network of symbols, silences, and gestures you absorbed even before you could remember. It is not just about your mother as a person, but about the maternal energy that impregnated your development. Jung called it the archetype of the Great Mother, a force as ancient as humanity itself, present in myths, in religions, in stories across cultures. She is the goddess who nurtures, but also devours, who gives life, but also consumes. And here's the disturbing truth. In every intimate relationship you establish, that archetype resurfaces. You seek in another body the safety of that first embrace, but you also project the fear of being completely swallowed, of losing yourself inside a figure that seems infinite. This secret game explains why love so often becomes a struggle, a contradiction. You desire, and at the same time you fear. You long to merge with someone, But when you achieve it, anxiety appears like a monster whispering in your ear. Don't you notice? That contradiction was not born in adulthood. It is rooted in that first experience of dependence. Pleasure is contaminated by threat. Desire becomes a battlefield between what you want and what you fear. And the more you try to deny it, the more power it gains over you. But there is something even darker. Think of how you learned what it means to be a man or a woman, what it means to be desired or rejected. You didn't learn it from a book. You learned it from the way your mother looked at your father, or how she criticized him, or from the absence she left when he wasn't there. That family stage was your first school of sexuality, though no one said it aloud. The way your mother related to the masculine figure was your first lesson in what to expect, what to fear, what to hide. And that lesson was inscribed in your unconscious as a silent command. Today you may rebel, you may try the opposite, but even then you are reacting to that invisible mark. The most disturbing thing is that the unconscious does not distinguish between what you lived and what you dreamed, between what you imagined and what you were told. Every gesture, every word, every silence became raw material for your desire. And now, when you think you seek by instinct, what you are actually doing is repeating, again and again, a script you never wrote. The face that attracts you, the body that obsesses you, the energy you cannot ignore, all of it bears the imprint of that first bond. It's as if the unconscious were playing with puppets and you were one of them, convinced you hold the strings. Do you see how brutal this is? You've lived believing your choices were free, that your attraction was spontaneous, and now you discover that perhaps your whole life you've been obeying an unconscious pattern formed before you could even speak. That is the real invisible prison, the illusion of freedom in a stage where the strings were tightened decades ago. And here comes the most unsettling part. If you don't dare to face that archetype, if you don't recognize the shadow your mother projects onto your way of desiring, you will never stop repeating the same cycle. You can change partners, cities, your entire life, but you will return to the same labyrinth, because the labyrinth is not outside, it is within you. And then arises the question few dare to ask. To what extent does your desire belong to you? Are you its owner, or merely the guardian of an unconscious legacy you never chose to accept? The most uncomfortable truth is that desire is marked not only by the mother as archetypal figure, but also by what she concealed, by the secrets she never spoke aloud. Because children don't only inherit physical traits, they also inherit silences. They inherit the invisible tensions breathed in the house, the unconfessed frustrations, the emotions that floated in the air like a subtle poison. And those silences, those omissions, also form part of what attracts or repels you in adult life. If your mother hid her pain, you will learn it as a model. Desire walks hand in hand with mystery, with the forbidden, with what cannot be shown. That is why sometimes what attracts you most is precisely what you cannot have. And here opens a disturbing passage. The forbidden as the engine of attraction. Jung discovered that the unconscious does not work with the moral rules of consciousness. What is taboo for you is food for your unconscious. And we are not talking about external moralities, but about the intimate, the way in which the forbidden awakens in you a fire stronger than the permitted. Doesn't it strike you as strange that many of your fantasies revolve around what you would never admit publicly? Why does the hidden burn more than the visible? Because the forbidden was always the frontier with the mother. What was vetoed? What must not be touched? And that prohibition transformed into impulse. Desire is born where there is a wall, and every wall you encounter in adult life awakens the memory of that original wall. But not everything in this game is dark. The key is to understand that desire, though conditioned by your history, is not condemned to repeat it eternally. The unconscious can dominate you if you ignore it, but if you recognize it, it becomes an ally. The first step is to look directly at the shadow. To ask yourself what part of your current attraction is tinted by your mother's legacy. Not to blame her, but to free yourself from that chain. Because here is the essential point. You cannot change what you desire, but you can change the way you relate to that desire. You can stop being its prisoner and begin to be its master. Now think of something. How many times have you felt that your desire contradicts you? That you want something you know will harm you? That you pursue someone who destroys you? That you obsess over what denies you peace? That is not random. That is your unconscious repeating the badly learned lesson of childhood. But Jung's depth psychology shows us something brutal. When you integrate that shadow, when you accept that your desire is poisoned with memories that are not yours, the poison transforms into medicine. What once dragged you like a demon begins to reveal itself as a truth about yourself. And here comes the most striking part. Desire, at its core, is a map. A map toward your unresolved wounds, toward the traumas you pretend to have forgotten, toward the lacks that still govern you. Your fantasies, your obsessions, your impulses, they are not mistakes, they are clues. They are the coded language your unconscious uses to show you where you were marked, where you remain bound. And if you have the courage to decipher it, you will discover that every person who intensely attracts you is not a random fate, but a mirror that reflects, in flesh and bone, the primordial figure that molded you. So next time you feel that irresistible attraction, that force greater than you, remember this. You are not merely before a body, you are before a symbol. And behind that symbol beats the first feminine presence of your life. And until you understand that hidden bond, you will keep chasing shadows, believing you seek pleasure, when in reality, you are seeking liberation. But let's go even deeper, because what is truly disturbing is not only that your mother left traces in your desire, but that those traces act like invisible ghosts in every bond you form. Jung called it the mother complex, and what no one wants to accept is that it doesn't vanish in adulthood. It disguises itself. It disguises itself in the person who makes you fall in love, in the one who obsesses you, in the one who destroys you. As if every new relationship were a play where the same character always reappears. Though the face, the voice, the name may change. And the cruelest part is that you don't even notice. You think you've chosen someone new, but in reality, you are still dialoguing with your mother's shadow. This complex not only shapes what you desire, it also determines what you reject. Think of those times someone gets too close, offers you clean affection, but you feel suffocated. Or those other times when, on the contrary, you seek a sickly intensity, a passion bordering on the destructive. None of those reactions arise from nowhere. They are responses to the unconscious memory of how you learned to receive love. And the irony is that the more you think you're distancing yourself from the maternal figure, the more trapped you are by it. Because rejection and attraction are two sides of the same coin. Both revolve around the original wound. But there is something even more unsettling. Jung discovered that the mother influences not only the child as an individual, but also their way of facing the world. That is, your capacity to trust, to give yourself, to feel worthy of love, is born from that first bond. If your mother was absent, you may carry an unfillable void. If she was controlling, you may feel that intimacy always conceals a trap. If she was ambivalent, you move between need and fear, as if walking a tightrope over an abyss. And here is the brutal truth. Your entire life, not just your sexual life, is conditioned by that script you never wrote. And there's more. Think of how society itself exploits this complex. Advertising, movies, music, all feed on that unconscious heritage. They sell you the image of the ideal woman as if it were new, when in reality it is a projection of the maternal archetype. The figure who nurtures, who welcomes, who saves, but also the figure who punishes, who controls, who devours. Collective desire is manipulated because we all share the same starting point: the mother as first mirror. And no one talks about this because it's too uncomfortable to admit. And now that we've made it this far, before we continue, I want to present the following to you. Our book, The Formula of Awakening, is now available. Do you feel like there's something inside you that wants to awaken, but you don't know where to start? Then I invite you to transform your way of thinking, and with it, your way of living. Discover who you can become. Start today. The link to get the ebook is in the first pinned comment of this video. Grab your copy now at a great price. With that said, let's continue with the video. Now, here is the deepest part. It is not about demonizing the mother or seeking culprits. It is about understanding that your unconscious is loaded with symbols, and those symbols act as secret compasses. The real work, the one Jung proposed, was not to flee from that shadow, but to integrate it. Because as long as you fight it, it will keep chasing you. Only when you recognize it can you begin to transform desire into something more than an automatic repetition. Only then do you discover that your desire, that you thought was a curse, can become a portal to your true freedom. Do you see? The mystery is not in what you desire, but in what that desire reveals about you. And as long as you don't face it, you will remain an actor in a play that was written long ago, when your eyes could barely open to the light of the world. And now we arrive at the most delicate point, where everything I've told you condenses into a truth so uncomfortable, many would rather turn this video off than accept it. Your desire is not only a psychological inheritance, it is also a spiritual compass. Yes, you heard right. Every attraction, every obsession, every impulse are coded messages your unconscious uses to point you toward what you have not yet resolved. They are not errors, not curses. They are doors. And every time you repress what you feel, all you do is block access to your own transformation. Desire is a language, and until you read it correctly, you will remain lost in a labyrinth where the same patterns repeat with different masks. The real question is this: do you dare to look at yourself without fear? Because to accept that your mother, that intimate, foundational figure, lies at the origin of what attracts you today is like breaking a mirror that has protected you for years. But when the mirror breaks, something new appears, your authentic reflection. And that reflection does not depend on anyone's shadow, not even the woman who gave you life. That reflection is the beginning of your autonomy, the birth of a desire that doesn't control you, but guides you. Because when you understand the root, you stop repeating it. And only then, for the first time, does your desire begin to truly be yours. Imagine what it means to live this way, without fear of the forbidden, without invisible chains, without repeating stories that do not belong to you. Imagine a free desire, not a reaction to the past, but a conscious choice of the present. That, and only that, is true maturity. That is what Jung left us as legacy, the courage to confront our shadows, to find in them not a condemnation, but the seed of our freedom. So here is my final invitation. If this video has stirred you, if you felt that in some way it spoke directly to you, subscribe right now, because what is coming will be even more uncomfortable, more revealing, and more liberating. And I want to ask you something very concrete. Leave a comment with this phrase as a secret code among those who made it to the end. Write, "My desire has roots, but now I want wings." That will tell me you are one of those who don't run away, one of those who dare to look at the forbidden in order to transform it into power. And I leave you with a warning disguised as a blessing. The next time you feel a desire burning inside you, don't ignore it, don't dress it up, don't judge it, observe it, because it may not be a simple impulse. It may be the ancient voice of your unconscious calling you to awaken. And when you hear it, remember these words, because perhaps then you will discover that what you thought was a dark secret was, in reality, the key to ignite your own light. This is the end of this journey. Now the rest depends on you. See you in the next descent into the shadows. Or perhaps, who knows, in the next awakening.